Welcome to The Explainer. The internet is getting hot, like really hot, and it's gobbling up a shocking amount of the world's electricity. So today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical solution that could, well, change everything.
Okay, so take a look at this. It looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But what if I told you this image holds the key to a massive energy problem that affects every single one of us? Yeah, this isn't science fiction. It's a real technology called liquid immersion cooling. And honestly, it might just be what saves our data-hungry world from literally overheating.
All right, first things first. We need to really get a handle on the problem here. Our entire digital world, it's getting incredibly hot, and it is so hungry for power. Think about it. All the services we use every single day, cloud storage, streaming, and especially AI, they all run in these massive buildings called data centers. They're basically the invisible factories of our time, just packed to the gills with powerful servers running 24/7. And all that work, well, it generates a colossal amount of heat. 4%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how much of the world's total electricity data centers are already eating up. To put that in perspective, that's more than a lot of entire countries use. And with our demand for data and especially power-hungry AI just exploding, that number is only going one way, up.
So for decades, how have we dealt with all this heat? Well, basically, with giant air conditioners. Seriously. But here's the thing. As computer chips get way more powerful and packed in tighter, just blasting them with cold air is becoming super inefficient. It's not sustainable. We're hitting a wall, literally. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. The Japanese telecom giant KDDI, along with their partners, decided to try something completely different. They were driven by their own sustainability goals, and they asked this really simple but kind of profound question. What if we just stopped fighting heat with air?
Yep, you heard that right. Instead of just blowing air on the hardware, they decided to dunk the servers directly into a special non-conductive oil. I know, it sounds absolutely crazy, but the science behind it is actually surprisingly simple.
The physics here is really straightforward. Liquid is just so much better at pulling heat away from a hot surface than air is. Think about it. How much faster do you cool down when you jump in a pool versus just standing in a light breeze? It's the exact same principle, just applied to the hottest computer chips on the planet.
So what does this whole setup actually look like in practice? Come on, let's break down the core components and kind of follow the heat on its journey out of the system.
Okay, what's so cool about this is that it's a beautifully simple, closed loop. See how it completely takes traditional, power-hungry air conditioning right out of the equation? It's just a really elegant piece of engineering.
It's basically a four-step journey for the heat. So step 1, the servers are sitting in this oil, and the oil sucks the heat right out of them. Step 2, that now hot oil gets pumped to a heat exchanger. They call it a CDU, where it transfers its heat to water. Step 3, that hot water is piped outside to this free cooling unit. And step 4, that outdoor unit just uses the regular outside air to cool the water down, and that cool water cycles right back inside to cool the oil again. It's just a brilliant, low-energy way to get heat from the chip all the way outside.
And here is the absolute key. The whole system doesn't need to be ice cold to work. Because liquid is just so darn efficient, the oil can be around 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, that's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it still cools the servers perfectly. And what does that mean? It means they can completely get rid of the most power-hungry part of a traditional data center, the chillers. That's where the massive energy savings come from.
And you know what's really brilliant about this? It's so practical. They don't have to build brand new special computers from scratch. Nope. They can use standard off-the-shelf servers with just a few tweaks. The biggest change? They just pull out all the cooling fans. And get this, just doing that saves 10 to 20% of the server's own power right off the bat.
So, the big question is, did this wild idea of dunking servers in oil actually work when they tried it on a massive scale? Well, the results from KDDI's big test are, and I'm not exaggerating here, absolutely astonishing.
94%. No, that is not a typo. They saw a 94% reduction in the electricity used just for cooling compared to a normal data center. That is a completely game-changing number for this entire industry.
And then there's this number, 1.05. They achieved a power usage effectiveness, or PUE as it's known, of 1.05. Now, for anyone who doesn't live and breathe the data center world, let me just tell you, that score is unbelievably good, like almost perfect.
So PUE is basically the industry's gold standard for measuring energy efficiency. A perfect score is 1.0.
That would mean every single watt of power goes to the computers with absolutely zero wasted on things like cooling. A more typical data center might be around, say, 1.7. So to get all the way down to 1.05, it's a groundbreaking achievement. And they proved they could do it while keeping everything super reliable.
Oh, and there was another massive side benefit. You take out all those screaming fans, and what happens? The data center becomes incredibly quiet. We're talking a noise drop of around 35 decibels. This is huge because it opens up the door for putting smaller data centers in places they could never go before. Think office buildings, shopping malls, maybe even residential areas. It lets you bring the computing power so much closer to where people actually are. So what does all this mean for the future? Well, this wasn't just some one-off experiment. It's really a roadmap for building a much more sustainable digital world.
And look, this whole thing didn't just happen overnight. It was a really careful multi-year project with 3 distinct phases. They started small back in 2020 just to validate the basics. Then they proved the concept in a container-style unit. And finally, they scaled it all the way up to a massive data center. They showed step by step that this tech is reliable and totally ready for the real world.
You know, a breakthrough like this rarely happens in a vacuum. This wasn't just one company working alone. It was a huge collaboration between the core partners, KDDI, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and NEC Nets SI, but also more than 20 other tech companies. Everyone was laser-focused on the same goal, decarbonization. And what I think is really impressive here is that KDDI and all their partners are openly sharing the data from these tests. Their goal isn't just to make their own operations better, it's bigger than that. They want to encourage everyone to adopt this technology to help decarbonize the entire IT industry. It's really about contributing to a more sustainable society for all of us.
So that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on, doesn't it? As our demand for data and AI just continues to grow exponentially, maybe, just maybe, the only way to keep our planet cool is to submerge our technology. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most innovative solutions require us to think in a completely different state of matter.